Here at the Rec Center at the Outdoor Pursuits Rock Wall, where they're currently hosting a special event, Climb. He says when you go to put your baby in the crib, the only thing that should be in there are the mattress and the sheet. If you are coming here to vote, you do need a state-issued ID in order to vote, but if you're a Ball State student, you can actually use your student ID as your form of identification. If you would like to come sign the beam, it will be here until 2 p.m., again, right behind the College of Health. Just a few minutes ago, saw somebody come up from out of the sinkhole, so it was clearly fairly deep. I know initial estimates were 4 to 6 feet, but now I did get it confirmed that it is 13 feet. For being 132 years old and traveling over 450 miles yesterday, I'd say Charles Road looks pretty good. He's been missing from Muncie since the 1960s, but yesterday a crew helped bring him back home to Indiana. Delaware County EMS partnered with the Department of Child Services to give babies a place to sleep in order to try to prevent some of those deaths. And Emma, I am here at the Delaware County building where so far hundreds of people have come here to vote ahead of next week's election. And as one Ball State professor told me, the effect of who wins the state races could have a major impact on who wins locally right here in Delaware County. Delaware County has already passed the amount of early voters it saw in 2014, and County Clerk Mike King says they may beat 2010 numbers as well.
I think there's a lot more interest in this election. I don't know whether it's the temperament from the national level or just more interest now because of a lot more younger people becoming involved. We had a lot of Ball State students that got registered to vote this year, so I think that might be driving some of it too.
For early voters, King requests patience and recommends voting early in person instead of absentee.
The county building would probably be your fastest route, especially the way that a lot of the clerks have been seeing some struggles with the postal service getting the ballots to people. There's been a delay, and whether that's a processing issue, all of our mail from Muncie goes down to Indianapolis and then has to come back. So a lot of people are impatient waiting on that mail out. So if you really want to vote absentee, come up to the county building.
Several congressional races are part of the midterm election.
That's what the midterm is all about, is who's going to have, a lot of legislative control and what that means for the president and for the states.
The Senate race between Joe Donnelly, Mike Braun, and Lucy Brenton could also affect elections locally.
We even have local elections here in Delaware County and across the state, and so a big part of it will be, what happens with those down ticket races as well. So they're frequently forgot about and not talked about, but it's another important part of it. And again, Democrats, if they can have the blue wave, and if it's big enough, it can float many of their other candidates down the ticket. So that's so there's a lot riding on the midterm elections.
Now, if you are wanting to come here and vote early, the office will be open from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. tomorrow through Saturday, and back open at 8:30 a.m. until noon on Monday. Now, if you are coming here to vote, you do need a state-issued ID in order to vote, but if you're a Ball State student, you can actually use your student ID as your form of identification. Live from the Delaware County building, Michelle Kaufman, NewsLink, Indiana. In order for Muncie Community Schools to use the metal detectors, the school board must approve a policy.
We have the wands, and quite frankly, this is another step in our effort to maintain safe schools. The metal detectors will be used strictly to identify weapons.
The proposed rules say the metal detectors would only be used in cases of probable cause, and the guidelines will be shared with parents. Burris Laboratory School has 2 metal detectors from the state program. Principal Dawn Miller says having a safe school is paramount, and they have a policy in place.
It may not be a tool that we use often. We would only use it with purpose. We aren't looking to use it randomly. It would be a very unusual situation for us to decide to use it, but we're glad we have that tool in our toolbox.
Miller said the metal detectors have not been used yet, and their policy sits on reasonable suspicion.
If we've received a tip, if we have had a teacher see something that looked suspicious, if we have reasonable suspicion, we would use the metal detector for that student.
Miller said the detectors may also be used at large events like prom, but not on every student. In Muncie, Michelle Kaufman, NewsLink, Indiana.